At Thanksgiving dinner, my father raised a toast to my daughter's hard work, which now belongs to your brother. My mother passed him a deed with my name erased. My brother smirked, "You built it. I'll enjoy it." Trembling, I whispered, "You forgot one thing." I pulled out a second document. As they read it, their faces turned white. I, 32 female, never thought I'd end up sharing this here, but after what happened, I need to get this off my chest. And maybe, just maybe, hear from someone who's been through something similar. It still doesn't feel real. Let me rewind a bit. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. Not rich, but we were comfortable. My dad, 66 male, worked in insurance, and my mom, 63 female, stayed home most of the time, helping out here and there with church events and volunteer work. I have one sibling, Jake, 28 male. He's the golden boy. Always has been. From the outside, people probably thought we were the typical Southern family. Big Sunday dinners, church every week, and lots of "we stick together no matter what" speeches. But if you looked a little closer, things were off. My parents made it very clear early on that Jake was the priority. I was told to be responsible. I was told not to make things harder. Jake? Jake got away with everything. I was the one with straight A's, who got a scholarship, who paid my own way through culinary school while working part-time. I always wanted to open my own bakery, and when I finally did, after years of saving, 12-hour days, and more sleepless nights than I can count, it felt like I'd finally made something for me. The flower garden. Small but successful. Right in the heart of downtown Charleston. It was mine. Jake flopped around for years. Tried college, dropped out. Tried starting a business flipping sneakers, failed. Worked a few barback jobs, got fired from at least 2. Lived with my parents the whole time. They always made excuses. "He's just figuring things out," my mom would say. "Don't be so hard on your brother." Still, I tried not to let it bother me. I kept my head down and worked. But this Thanksgiving? Everything changed. It started off normal enough. I wasn't going to go this year. I'd been feeling distance growing between me and my parents, but guilt got the best of me. I showed up around 3 p.m. with a pie I baked that morning and a tight smile. My parents acted like everything was normal. Jake gave me his usual half-hug and dumb joke. But something felt off. They were too cheerful. Too rehearsed. Dinner came. Turkey, stuffing, the works. We all sat at the table. I was about to make some small talk when my dad stood up with his wine glass. "I'd like to make a toast," he said. I thought maybe it would be about the family, or something about being thankful for us all being healthy. But no. He raised his glass and said, "To my daughter's hard work." I smiled. Maybe he was finally going to acknowledge how hard I've worked for the bakery. "Which now belongs to your brother." I froze. The room went silent. I looked around, thinking maybe I misheard him. My fork was halfway to my mouth. Then my mom reached down, picked up a folder from beside her chair, and slid it across the table toward me. Inside? A deed. A deed. The title for my bakery. Only, my name had been crossed out. No shame. No apology. Just smugness. Let me be clear, I paid for that building. I negotiated the lease. I designed every corner of that place. I hired every employee. I spent years on my feet, sweating, crying, bleeding to make it succeed. And now they were handing it to Jake like a Christmas gift? I looked at them, my parents really looked. And I realized in that moment, they never saw it as mine. They saw it as a tool. Something to use. Something to hand off. "You forgot one thing," I said, quietly. Their smiles wavered. I reached into my purse and pulled out a second folder. One I had prepared just in case, because I'd started to sense something was wrong over the last few months. Jake had been asking weird questions. About how payroll worked. About which vendors I used. Once he even asked if my employees had contracts. That's when I started getting suspicious. So I took action. I handed the folder to my dad. He opened it. And his face went white. What is this? It's a finalized contract, I said. I sold the bakery. 2 weeks ago. To an outside buyer. Everything is legal. Notarized. The funds are already in my account. Silence. My mom leaned over to read it. You can't do that, she said, voice rising. I already did. Jake's jaw clenched. Are you serious? You sold it? To a stranger? I turned to him. You tried to steal it from me. I'm not handing it to you. Then I looked at both of my parents. You lied to me. You forged documents. You went behind my back. And you expected me to just sit there and take it. Nobody said a word. I stood up and grabbed my coat. My heart was pounding, and my hands were shaking, but I knew one thing for sure, I was done. I haven't told you what happened after that yet. Because honestly, I'm still trying to process it all. I left that night without another word. Got in my car, drove straight back to my apartment. Didn't cry. Not then. I was too stunned. Too numb. The next morning, my phone started blowing up. Missed calls. Voicemails. Texts from my mom, we need to talk. You've hurt this family. You should be ashamed. Then Jake, you're a real piece of work. All you had to do was help me. You'll regret this. Regret? I spent 10 years building that bakery from the ground up. I missed weddings, vacations, sleep, all of it for that place. And they thought I'd just hand it over because Jake can't hold down a job? I didn't reply to any of them. But then, 2 days later, I got a call from Rita. My old landlord. She's a sharp woman in her 70s who owns a few properties downtown. She liked me. Respected how I ran things. Han, she said, your parents and your brother showed up at my office today. Said there was some kind of mix-up and they were there to take over the lease for the flower garden. I nearly dropped my phone. They what? Yeah. Tried to convince me you transferred it to your brother but forgot to update the lease. Rita said she sent them packing. She knew something didn't add up. They're pushing hard, though. If I were you, I'd get your paperwork in order. Just in case. So now they weren't just mad, they were desperate. Later that same week, I got an email from the buyer I sold the bakery to. They were excited to get started, but mentioned something strange. I checked my business bank account, the one I had closed after the sale, and saw an unauthorized attempt to reactivate it using old credentials. Someone had tried to access past records and payment systems. Whoever it was had enough personal info to make it through 2 layers of security. I called the bank, froze everything again, and reported fraud. But the rep on the phone asked something that chilled me. Is there anyone in your family who would have access to this? Yes. My parents. Jake. They had paperwork. They had old tax documents. Enough, apparently, to try and reopen closed records and act like they were the business owners. I felt sick. So I did what I never thought I'd do. I called a lawyer. I didn't want it to come to this. But something told me this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I met with a lawyer named Mr. Reyes, calm, sharp, straight talker. I laid out everything, the deed at dinner, the forged transfer, the attempted lease grab, the break-in, the fraud attempt. He listened without interrupting. Then he nodded and said, "You've got a case. And a strong one." He helped me draft a cease and desist letter, sent it to all 3, Mom, Dad, Jake. He also contacted the new buyer and offered to help them secure legal protection too. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. 1 week later, my dad showed up at my apartment. I didn't open the door at first. Just stared through the peephole, heart racing. He knocked again. Then said, "I need to talk. Alone. No tricks." Against my better judgment, I opened it. Not fully. Just enough to see his face. He looked older. Exhausted. Not smug. Not angry. "I didn't know Jake did all that," he said quietly. "The bank stuff. The break-in. I swear." I didn't believe him, but I didn't say anything. I thought you'd help him. That he just needed a chance. "So you gave him my life?" I asked. He looked down. "I've made mistakes. Your mother," she pushed for it. "Said it was the only way to keep the family business alive." "It wasn't hers to give," I said. Then he said something that made my stomach turn. "She's planning to sue you." "What?" "She thinks you tricked us. Says the bakery was a family asset and you sold it out from under us." I stared at him. I wanted to scream. But I just stood there, too shocked to even breathe right. "She thinks if she proves you used family money, anything from childhood, even your college fund, she can argue she has a stake." I laughed. Out loud. "I paid my way through school. I worked 2 jobs. I paid for every damn flour bag that went through that kitchen." "I know," he said, quietly. "I'm not with her on this." "Then stop her." He didn't answer. And then I knew. He wouldn't stop her. Couldn't. Because he never stood up to her. Not once. I closed the door. Locked it. And now I'm here, writing this. My family is trying to erase me from my own life. They're saying my work is theirs. They want to take something they never lifted a finger for. They're not giving up. But neither am I. I thought the worst was over after my dad showed up and warned me about the lawsuit. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. Not an email. Not a phone call. A certified envelope from some law office I'd never heard of. I opened it with shaking hands. My mother had officially filed a civil claim against me. The language was full of legal garbage, but the summary was brutal. She was suing me for unlawful liquidation of joint family business assets and demanding a return of funds from the bakery sale, plus damages for emotional distress and loss of generational equity. She had attached statements. Bank records from when I was 17 years old. Claims that I could not have opened the bakery without family support. That shared household resources contributed to its foundation. That my brother had a verbal agreement to co-own the business. Verbal agreement? That never happened. Not once. He never stepped foot in the bakery unless he wanted free cupcakes. And the most insane part? She listed herself as co-founder of the business. I lost it. I called Mr. Reyes right away. He reviewed the claim, and the longer he read, the more his face tightened. "This is weak," he said. "But it's aggressive. They're banking on you getting scared and settling." I wasn't scared. I was furious. But there was something that still didn't sit right. Why now? Why was my mom so determined to claw back something she never helped build? That's when Carla, my old employee, texted me again. "Can we talk? In person. It's about Jake." We met at a coffee shop that weekend. Carla looked nervous. She said Jake had reached out to her again, but this time, not about the bakery. "He offered me cash," she said. "Said if I signed something saying he co-managed the shop last year, he'd give me $1,000. I stared at her. "He's trying to manufacture evidence?" "Yeah. And I think he's doing it with your mom." Carla didn't sign, obviously. But who else had he contacted? Later that night, I logged into the bakery's old employee portal. One I still had access to before the new owner reset everything, and downloaded every single timesheet, every manager note, every communication with staff. Not one mention of Jake. Not a single shift worked. Not a single meeting. Nothing. I compiled it all. Gave it to Mr. Reyes. But he was thinking ahead. We need to be ready for something dirtier, he said. He was right. Because the next twist? They went after the buyer. I got a panicked call from the guy who bought the bakery, Scott, a quiet middle-aged guy who had worked in restaurants for years and finally wanted to run his own place. Your brother and your mom came into the bakery, he said. Claimed you sold it under false pretenses. Said they were filing to reverse the sale and take over operations until the case is settled. They walked into the building like they owned it. Scott told them to get out, and then filed for a restraining order the next day, but the damage was done. Some of the old customers saw them. Rumors started flying. And then? One of my old regulars posted on Facebook that the flower garden had been stolen by the daughter and sold behind her parents' backs. Said the new owner was part of a scam. How did I know? Because my aunt, who lives in Charlotte, shared it. I texted her asking why she would do that without talking to me. Her response? I trust your mother. That's when it hit me. My mom had started a smear campaign. Quiet. Subtle. Through old friends, family, church people. And it was working. People were whispering. Some of my vendors dropped me as a personal client. Someone even keyed my car. And then one final gut punch, I got an email from the Charleston Small Business Association. Apparently, someone had sent in an anonymous complaint claiming I misused grant funds during the bakery's first year. False, by the way. I never even took out grants. But they were investigating anyway. One lie at a time, she was trying to bury me. Mr. Reyes was already preparing a countersuit. He said if this went to court, we'd crush them, but it would get ugly. My mom had no real evidence, but she had time, money, and a whole network of enablers. And Jake? He was loving every second of it. His Instagram story, yes, I still checked, was full of vague quotes about karma and what's meant to be will always find its way. Like he was some wise monk instead of a grown man trying to rob his sister. I couldn't believe this was my family. And deep down, I kept wondering, why? Why go this far? But then, just last week, I found out. I ran into an old family friend, Mrs. Hale, at the grocery store. She used to babysit me when I was little. She pulled me aside and said, "Sweetie, I wasn't going to say anything. But your mom's been talking. Says Jake's in deep credit card debt. Something about a loan shark. That bakery was supposed to fix it." Suddenly, it all made sense. They didn't just want the bakery. They needed it. Jake was drowning. And instead of letting him face the consequences, my mother decided to destroy me to save him. Now I have a choice. Do I fight them all the way? Or walk away and let them keep sinking? The court date came faster than I expected. 3 months of legal back and forth. My mom doubled down on everything. Jake backed her up. My dad stayed mostly silent but showed up at every meeting, sitting quietly like a ghost. The whole time, I felt like I was standing on the edge of something sharp. Waiting for the cut. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about control. It was about who got to claim my success. The courtroom was small. Cold. Beige walls, uncomfortable chairs, and this awful buzzing from the ceiling lights. My lawyer, Mr. Reyes, was calm as ever. My hands were sweating so bad I couldn't keep them folded. They brought everything. My mom's side had fake emails, handwritten notes from years ago trying to suggest I'd promised Jake a share. They even dragged up a moment from high school where I once joked that Jake would probably take over the bakery if I ever got married. That was their evidence. But the moment that cracked it wide open, the twist I didn't see coming, happened when my mom took the stand. She was dressed in this pale blue suit, like she was going to a church picnic, not court. She spoke in a soft, sad voice, like she was the victim. Talked about how family should come before profit and we only wanted to protect what we helped create. Then Reyes stood up. He didn't even raise his voice. "Mrs. Holloway, can you explain why you filed for bankruptcy on Jake's behalf under a different name last year?" The room went dead silent. "What?" I whispered. My mom froze. Reyes continued, holding up a document. "This is a bankruptcy filing for a fake consulting business registered under Jake's middle name. You co-signed. Care to explain?" She panicked. Started fumbling. Said something about helping him get back on his feet. The judge asked for clarification. Reyes delivered the blow. They were trying to shield Jake's assets. His debts were tied to several personal loans from private lenders. One of those lenders contacted my client after this lawsuit began. He believed she was the one who owed him. All of it unraveled in real time. The truth? Jake owed tens of thousands. Gambling, credit cards, who knows? They created a shell business, tried to hide the debt, and planned to funnel the bakery's income through it once they took it back. Suddenly, it wasn't about emotional distress. It was fraud. The judge dismissed their claim immediately. But that wasn't the ending. Because as soon as the gavel dropped, I turned around and looked at my mom. Right in the eye. "You tried to ruin me," I said. "For him." She didn't say anything. Just stood there, blinking, like she couldn't believe it didn't work. Jake exploded. "This is your fault," he shouted at her. "You said it would work. You promised." "Shut up," my dad said suddenly, his voice louder than I'd ever heard. "Just shut up, Jake." We all turned. He looked like a balloon deflating. Gray, tired, sunken. "I'm done," he said. "With all of this." He stood up and walked out. My mom finally broke. "You don't understand what it's like watching your son fall apart." "I was falling apart too," I snapped. "You just didn't notice because I didn't scream loud enough." We didn't speak after that. Jake stormed out. My mom sat down on the bench outside the courtroom and cried. Big, ugly, silent tears. I didn't comfort her. I just left. I went home. Sat in silence for a long time. Cried once. Maybe twice. Not because I lost something, but because I realized it had never been mine to protect. Not the love. Not the loyalty. I didn't hear from any of them for weeks. But word got around. Carla called me. So did Rita, the landlord. Even a few old customers sent messages. Apologies, support, shock. "You did the right thing," Carla told me. Even if it was ugly. Jake? Last I heard, he left Charleston. Rumor says he's living out of a friend's garage in Atlanta. My mom tried sending a long letter. It was half apology, half explanation. She said she didn't know how to let Jake fail. That she thought I'd forgive her because I'm strong. I didn't write back. I still see my dad sometimes. Not often. Once every few months, he texts me something simple. A recipe. A memory. A photo of my old dog. I think he regrets it. But it's too late. I'm in Asheville now. My little cafe is doing well. I'm not rich, but I'm safe. I sleep better. I smile more. People think betrayal is loud. It's not. It's quiet. It's your mother handing you a folder. It's your brother smiling when he thinks you're powerless. It's the silence when you realize your parents were never on your side. But here's the truth, I survived. I don't know what comes next. I don't know if I'll ever trust them again. Maybe I'll forgive one day. Maybe not. But I built something once. I'll build again. Because the strongest thing I've ever done was walk away from people who tried to steal everything, and still live like I have everything I need.